Lesson two of this third unit of Credit Recovery World History, we're going to get into the rise of Islam and focus on the Middle Eastern part of the world during this Middle Age time period. So, as always, we're going to be talking about the Muslims or Islamic faith, and I'm going to call this a society. So, I want you to focus on the cultural advancements, and I want you to determine the fact that a religion is going to pop up. Does that mean it's culturally advanced or not? So, with that, pretty please make sure you're listening to the causes and effects, and make sure that you're grasping: is this really an advancement quite yet? So here we go. Where did it all start? It started in today's Saudi Arabia, and it's going to start specifically in this city here of Mecca. And it's going to be right around the time period of 610 CE. So this is the most modern of the monotheistic religions, meaning one God faiths. So you have Christianity and you have Judaism. You're going to notice that all three of these monotheistic religions are actually going to have very similar beliefs. So if you were to break them down, you'd see there's a lot of overlap, but that's for a different time in a different class. And you're going to notice that at the center point is going to be this black box, and it's going to be called the Kaaba. Okay, so why is this such a big deal? Is that when Islamic people face east, they're actually facing this. So again, drawing parallels to Christianity, that's why most people usually will pray facing a cross. It's kind of the same thing here, although nobody died in this, okay? But this was put here by a gentleman by the name of Abraham and his sons, and that's kind of like the founder of the monotheistic belief, if you will. Okay, so nobody really knows what this black stone of this that's in the Kaaba, but again, it's kind of their focal point. It's just kind of there. But in terms of who their big dog was, there's going to be this guy named Muhammad, and he's going to be seen as a prophet, which means it's like a messenger from God. And happened to him is he was just a normal dude. And one night, God supposedly visited him, took him on a tour of heaven and hell, and then it's going to drop him down into Jerusalem. And there he was given basically all the viewpoints, all the lessons, or whichever that the Islamic faith are going to be based around. And he basically shared all of these thoughts, and eventually people are going to gather them all and put them in what's known as their holy book of the Quran, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But more about Muhammad, just so you understand why his faith spread so quickly, is because his job, he was a trader. He worked on the Silk Road. He had lots of networks of people of going all over the world that could carry whatever he was telling them. So, again, why this all matters is that they're going to take his thoughts, they're going to take this now new Quran, and they are going to spread it around. But this is this lesson setting up another lesson. So I mentioned Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the origin of the three monotheistic religions. So we've talked about how Jesus was crucified in Jerusalem. We just talked about how Muhammad had a big encounter in Jerusalem. And then the Judaism, this is where it all started as well. So again, where this all kind of hits a big deal is that this is going to be the reason why the Crusades are going to be a thing in a couple of lessons. So you're going to notice that the Christians and the Muslims, they're not going to get along forever. And this is actually going to lead to a war, which we'll talk about more when we get there, or a series of wars, really. But blank is a holy city in the Islamic faith. All right, so here's that Quran, and there's two ways of spelling it. This is like the Americanese version of it, and this is the Islamic way. So why this matters? This is their holy book. This is their Bible, if you will. Okay, so this is again a collection of all of their works, all the words that Muhammad was given from the angel of Gabriel and around that fire that I just kind of showed you. And then these are all the lessons that Allah or God is going to try to pass on to mankind: how to act, how to treat fellow people, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of the messages are the same as the Jewish book or Jewish Torah, excuse me, and the Christian Bible. So it's not really a coincidence. And this all caught on because it was so eloquently said that people just believed him. So in today's world, that if somebody were to say, "Yep, God visited me and this is what he said," people would think he was crazy. But back in the day, it stuck. And then in that, Muhammad is going to start preaching these five pillars of belief. Okay, so these are the rules that they have to follow just like how the Christians had the 10 commandments, and then the Jewish faith, they have 600 and I think it's 13 commandments if I remember right. But again, this is really kind of the foundation. And Muhammad called these the five pillars that held up the building of Islam, or the faith of Islam. So the first one is similar, is again, you're going to have no other God other than Allah. Pretty straightforward. Only worship Allah. Don't put worship into anything else. You must pray 5 times a day. So there's different time periods when this all goes down, and if you really want to know them, you can look them up. But I've known some Muslims in the past that they have broken this down to 2, they were 3. It doesn't have to be 5, but each one of them has a certain like theme, I guess. They must give back to charity. So again, Muhammad was a son of a single mom. So she needed some extra help. So this is something that he kind of preached as well, talking about helping out your fellow man. And then there's fasting. So this is something that's coming up in Ramadan. So what this shows is that if you're willing to go without food, willing to go without water while the sun is in the sky, you're showing your devotion to your faith. Okay, so the Catholics have stuff during Lent where they don't eat meat on Friday, and then the Jewish faith actually has some sort of fasting as well in different branches. But again, it's all about devotion. And then lastly, there's this thing called the pilgrimage or the Hajj, and this is where Islamic people try to make a trip to this Kaaba, and where they're going to basically say certain prayers and kind of restore their faith, I guess you would say. But again, this is the five pillars of faith. This is what they're told to do or not to do. So to kind of give you an idea of how that Ramadan or that Hajj is kind of a big deal, the pilgrimage, this is the inside of the arena, for lack of a better term, that shows how many people show up to do this. And this is again zoomed out, and this is again zoomed out. So this is a pretty serious thing. So again, this is what they believe. So blank are the rules of the Islamic faith. All right, so how did this spread? Again, I take you back to the Silk Road. So trading was going right through this land, over and over and over. And people coming in, people living there, all spoke the same language, which was Arabic. And even if Arabic wasn't your natural language, you learned Arabic so you could trade easier along the road. So, since people are able to communicate and pass that message of the Quran, this is where Islam is going to basically explode and expand. And then all the while, different geographic barriers that we've talked about in the past did not hold this up. So the fact that this spread so quickly, so fast, that shows you that people really bought into it. So that's kind of a big deal. But so here's where I got to introduce another term, and it's called a caliphate, if I remember right. But why this matters is that these are going to be the people that are going to assume the control of the faith, I guess you would say, after Muhammad dies. So that's kind of what it means. And there's going to be some different ones that are going to be worth noting. Okay, you have this gentleman right up here. I can't pronounce his name, and I have this gentleman right here. So the Abbasid, if I remember right, and I can't remember, I'm sorry, I don't know this. But these are going to be the people that are going to spread the Islamic faith to different continents of Africa and in Europe. So that's kind of the biggest deal, I guess you would say. And there's people are saying how this is usually done by the sword or by the word. So meaning military conquest was a thing. When people expanded, people basically were forcing captors to turn to Islamic faith to keep their head. So that's kind of a deal. So here's a map. Okay, so here is again Muhammad, where he rolled, and then the other caliphs are going to be shown in the different colors. So you can see the arrows in which it all kind of spread. So notice up here in Africa, and then over here in Spain or Europe is going to be a big deal. So final question, the Islamic faith spread because of